Hello everybody and welcome, and today I come bearing you a question of much intrigue at the moment. What is next for Luffy? So, if you're an anime-only watcher or you're not caught up with the manga, don't watch this video because there are immense spoilers for what happened in chapter 1188 of the One Piece manga. So, okay, that's kind of clear out now. So, what happened is, at the end, we see as Emu straight skewers Luffy. Gear 5 Luffy sitting there like a kebab. So, with this, we gotta ask, what's Luffy gonna do now? Because, just kind of preface here, we see this Luffy is the most powerful we have seen Luffy. Because it is Gear 5, fully advanced through battle and all of this. He has all of his battle experience up to this point. So he is the most powerful Gear 5, which also is further bolstered by the fact that he is fully energized. He's been gorging himself on food for the last couple of chapters. So he is fully powered. And we see as Emu easily skewers him and says, "You're not that guy, pal. Or at least you're not as strong as Emu. I'm not Emu, but Joy Boy. You're not him." So, like I said, we must ask ourselves now, where does Luffy go from this? Because, as we know, this was a Luffy, like I said, fully energized, full battle experience, everything. The dude who beat Kaido, though Kaido, he took him a while, so Kaido isn't too complete of a feat for Luffy. But went toe-to-toe against the Gorosei, I'll say. So, where do we go with this Luffy? He has all three forms of advanced Haki. He's the freest man alive. And he has a God Devil Fruit, a God Zoan type. So, where would we go from here? So, I guess there are multiple paths you could take. Number one, probably the easiest, he learned new Haki, guys. So, I would be very unsatisfied with this one because the kind of Haki excuse is a little stupid and a little bit kind of overdone. I mean, not necessarily overdone, but just, it is a very underwhelming idea because Haki has become such a mainstay in the modern manga where it does still hold hype. Like, the hype for Zoro getting Advanced Conquerors and now Sanji possibly getting it is still massively up there. But when you have a character who is so well attuned with Haki, such as Luffy, it's not as, I guess, hype or as appealing when they get a new type of Haki. Because it's kind of just an excuse to negate the powers of a Devil Fruit, instead of going about beating this Devil Fruit through a specific manner. So, one excuse could be new Haki. Now, the other one brings me into what I was speaking about beating a Devil Fruit, which I would find to be more interesting, probably the second coolest. So, pre-time skip, we always saw, not Zoan, but Logia-type Devil Fruits beaten in such cool ways. Like, they always found a way about them. And specifically, when Luffy was skewered the last time, when he fought Crocodile, well, at least specifically held up skewered, I guess, he found a interesting way about getting around a Logia type, which the Logias were the most powerful pre-time skip. I mean, they're still very powerful. They are arguably the most powerful unless you got some God Zoan or something like that. But yeah, so they always found a creative way of going about beating Devil Fruits. And it wasn't just always Haki this, Haki that. However, I do like Haki. I'm not hating on the Haki power system. I really enjoy it, and I love kind of the aura that comes behind Haki. But yeah, so we see this. And I believe it is a possibility that Luffy will find some type of way to possibly negate Emu's Devil Fruit somehow. I don't really see what this would be, though. So this is why I leave it to be a little bit unrealistic, because if Emu has some major loophole in his power, I don't believe he would have reigned for, way over, for centuries upon centuries. So yeah, I'm just curious as to see where that possibility goes if it does end up going down that path, because I don't really see Emu having an inherent weakness built into his Devil Fruit, because that just doesn't really match with his character nor with his, I guess, his story of having ruled for so many years over the entire world, essentially. So I don't believe that would be the case. And also, I believe if he had such a weakness that Joy Boy would have exploited it, or it would have been figured out, like I said, over these plethora of centuries. But yeah, so the next big one that I believe could be, and is most likely the highest possibility for Luffy actually beating Emu here, is Luffy unlocking a variant of Gear 5. So, the only other, technically variant forms we see in One Piece is with Gear 4, we see Bound Man, Snake Man, and Tank Man. And the one thing that makes me think the possibility of a Gear 5 variant is the distance of the chapters and also kind of just the tendency with Gear 4. Like, I mean, with the previous Gears pre-time skip, Gear 2 and Gear 3, we never saw forms. However, now that we have Gear 4, we know that we can see forms in a gear. So it is a possibility that we see a variant of Gear 5. Now, one of the major things that makes me think the possibility of a gear is likely is the fact that span of the chapters. So I believe it was 132 chapters between once we first got the original introduction of Bound Man Gear 4, which is a baseline Gear 4, and Snake Man. 132 chapters between that fight with Doflamingo and then the fight with Katakuri where we first see Snake Man. And the distance between the current chapter we are in and when Gear 5 first got introduced in chapter 1044, sorry, on like the final panel of that chapter is 144 chapters. There has been 144 chapters since the release of Gear 5. So there is, I believe, a high possibility for there being a variant of Gear 5, because it's been a moment since we got a new form. And you always know that people in the manga and anime company are like, I want to sell new marketable Luffy toys, so let's make a new form, Oda! Now, yes, this would be kind of underwhelming because Gear 5 has the capacity to do a bunch of forms, and there doesn't really need to be a specific separate form because like we see like the massive Luffy, we get to see the Majin Luffy's or the Genie Luffy. So we don't necessarily need a specific powered up or altered form because Gear 5 already does that. Like there's no need for a specific like derivation or title given to said derivation just because Luffy got beat here. Now, one thing I honestly would kind of hope, but also not at the same time, is Imu just wins. Like, I genuinely would not be disappointed if that happens. I wish it could be another Saba Odi incident, because, like, Saba Odi Archipelago is one of my favorite arcs in all of One Piece because of the tension there. Like, I was like an infant, and I wasn't an infant, but I was very young when Saba Odi was coming out. So I didn't get to experience like reading it or watching it weekly. There is no telling how insane the hype must have been at that time, where you see all the Straw Hats get poofed. You think these dudes are dead. So like, what if we got that again? That would be so hype. Like the hype behind One Piece would go crazy. I know we're too far into the end game now to have another reset or time skip, but we may need something like that. Because I mean, look at this. Luffy, who is going to be the king of the pirates, presumably within the next 300 or 500 chapters, who will be king of the pirates in that time, is getting pieced up by not even the main villain, presumably, or at least the final villain. Because I don't think Imu's the final villain. I think my money's on Blackbeard or something along that lines. Because Imu, I don't think he's powerful enough to be the final villain. He was going toe-to-toe with Loki, yes, but Loki is also technically a Shanks victim. So, like, I just don't see Imu being the final villain, but also Luffy has a far, far distance to go, to travel, to develop, if Imu is not even the final villain. And so Luffy's got to do something. Luffy can't just, I believe it'd be very unsatisfying, unsatisfying for him to just whip something out and be like, oh yes, I beat Imu with my my trump card instantly defeat Imu or something like that. I just don't believe that'd be satisfying. I know that's not going to happen, but I believe it would be far more, I guess, satisfying and kind of ground shaking, bringing us down to earth with the Straw Hats just getting defeated, or at least Luffy just getting defeated, and then Imu only getting beaten because, his timer runs out, he has to head back to Marie Joie. So, like, I think I would just want more One Piece, honestly. Like, I don't care as long as it gets a satisfying ending, but, like, I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's time for it to end in, like, the next couple of years, not couple of years, but, like, multitude of years. It just doesn't seem like we're there yet. And especially not with this massive defeat of Luffy. So, I'm really curious to see what will happen. Luffy is going to have to go under some type of training or some type of development. And I don't want it to be instantaneous. I want him to have to work for it and to figure out, how do I triumph over this massive, force, this scourge upon my abilities and my dream to become Pirate King. Because he cannot become Pirate King if he can't beat Imu. It's as simple as that. So we got to see him come up with something, learn something, practice to acquire something. And so, like, also, okay, if we go through about power scaling, I know that I discussed this in my review of the chapter. Okay, Loki is technically weaker than Shanks if we go off just base statements, and Shanks won in a fair fight against Loki. It was no holds barred, just straight fighting. And then we can presume, since Mihawk is the world's greatest swordsman, that he is more powerful than Shanks. I'm just going off of basic semantics here that we've seen in the manga itself, straight lines. And Shanks is, I'd say he's a swordsman because he has a sword and he wields it, and it's his predominant weapon. So, swordsman. And Mihawk is the world's strongest swordsman. Therefore, he has to be stronger than Shanks. Just logically. I know, like, that is a massive thing, and I believe people have been so fooled by this not necessarily brain dead, but like this drivel that's coming out, just kind of like joke around that somehow Shanks is more powerful than Mihawk. I don't believe that's the case. So, we see this, and Imu is likely above Mihawk. So, also, Zoro's got to get there somehow. Zoro has to get as powerful as essentially Imu, or more powerful than Loki within the next, if we're saying 500 chapters when One Piece ends, 500 chapters. That ain't happening, buddy. Yeah, Zoro gained a lot of power within, like, the first 500 chapters, then all the way to chapter 1000, but, like, still, Mihawk level? Zoro is Holy Knight, like, presumably Holy Knight level right now. He's YC plus, I presume. So yeah, we gotta figure something out. Like, the pacing here is just not matching up. I believe there's actually more to One Piece than we presume that there will be, because something has to change here. The Straw Hats have to develop in a drastic way, or we are not going to get a satisfying conclusion. So I'm just really ready to see where Oda goes with this. I know we got a break week, so that will be pretty, I guess, nerve-wracking, because we won't get our, answer to this question until at least one chapter later. So yeah, that's all it really is for that little just theory crafting I had there. So thank you very much for watching.